it is time for tea time. We're going to get into our subject. Let's start off by defining what settling means. What does it mean for you?
Settling to me would be the act of just taking whatever is available or given to you without considering your own personal like thoughts or conditions or morals or priorities for yourself, but just taking the bare minimum that's given to you because it's available.
Taking what's available versus what you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I also think it's the trade-off for what you can have now versus what you want later.
No, that's right. Real good. Yeah.
So I would take your definition and I would just add to it, right? And say that it's accepting what you can have now, but foregoing what you really want, which could be available later.
Yeah, so, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, that's fair. Figuring out what you want now for what you can have later.
Yes. So, are we framing this around like relationships or like
we can frame it however you would like, honey, because it's applicable. Like it could be career, it could be love, it could be this podcast.
I know, right? Listen,
it could be anything.
Everything.
Hell, it could be Rhode Island. I don't know, whatever you want, how you want to do it.
Hilarious. No, it's definitely, when we always talk, like it definitely applies to like career and love for sure, like relationships. And I think for me, it's most applicable to my love life, just because that's where I am right now in my life. Not so much career. I think I would say before, prior to being in the position that I'm in currently, I was settling because I was like, oh, well, I can only be a teacher because nobody's hiring me. So this is comfortable. I know how to do it. Like, I'm good. But then when I was given the opportunity to move up into leadership, I was like, okay, like I can do this. So now it's like continual push to do different stuff in leadership. So that's a different story. But I always think about settling when, I think about relationships and what that looks like for me, because I'm at a point right now where I'm just like, I cannot settle. And it's like a daily mantra. Like, I cannot settle. Like, say it with me. I cannot settle.
I won't give up. Let us shut up till I stayed up, stored up, studied up, and paid up.
Man, I just cannot. Like, I cannot see doing it for the life of me. Sorry. So we effortlessly roll that in there. Shout out to Upper Bound.
Shout out to Upper Bound.
But yeah, no, seriously though, like I just see like so much happening, and I see how much I've grown in, the last couple of years, where I think before in relationships, like I would have been like cool with meeting up with people who slide in my DM or just like wasting time talking to people. But now I'm really like, no, like I choose no. And that's the final answer. And you don't have to backtrack. It's okay. Like, we're good. Perfect example, and shout out to this guy if he listens to our podcast. But
oh no, what are you about to
me? I ain't gonna name names, but no. So at my job, shout out to the ladies at my job. They're always trying to hook me up and looking out for me because I'm a single person at work. So they're always like, oh, okay, the gardener, he's cute. Like, let's try to hook her up. Like, whoever comes to our job, like they're like, all right, we're gonna try to see if he's single. Like, we want to get the tea on him. So a guy comes into my job and he's handsome or whatever. And my coworkers eventually got us to talk. Like, it was PD week, like we were in the back room, like just talking to each other, like kind of getting a feel for each other. So I'm like, yeah, my coworkers, like this was on them, like they wanted me to talk to you or whatever. So as we're talking, like I'm just getting information from him, he had been married, blah, blah, blah. He has a few kids, blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, he had a decent job because he was there working at my school. But I was just like, and then I remember I texted you and Scarlett and I was like, yeah, like, it's doing my job. Like, we was talking, he got my number, blah, 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 but he has this, and this. And then I think it was you who said, like, do you accept that? And
that's always
like,
my question.
Yeah.
That's what you
and I was really like, do I accept this? And I really had to think hard about it. Because I think 4 years ago, Chanel would have been like, I'm going to just see. Because I'm hard-headed and I'm going to see, even though I know, like, this is a little touchy with the amount of children he had, I was just like, but I'm going to still see. But I had already been through that by dealing with people who had young children. So I know what the outcome is already. But new me was like, bro, you know what's about to happen if you embark on this.
Not if you embark.
Listen, bro, you already know. Like, he has a young child. He's recently divorced. Like, red flags. Like, like, no, this is a no for you. So I was like, damn, that's a good question. Like, do I accept? And then I really had to dig deep to be like, okay, well, you've already been through this. Like, you've already been through this lesson. God already told you this ain't it. Like, this is not what you want. So yeah, I like never reached out to that guy. He never reached out to me. So I was like, okay. And I didn't even care. Like, I didn't think two thoughts about it. But I think if I would have pursued that, I would have been, one, settling, and two, settling for the purpose of say I'm talking to somebody, to like say that I have somebody I can talk to. And for me, it just wasn't enough. Like, you don't align with what I want. That sounds kind of selfish, or what I believe that I deserve. And that's okay. And again, I didn't think two thoughts about him and not talking to him. But like I said, 4 years ago, me would have went way left with that. And then I would have been learning a whole new lesson of the same lesson that I already learned. So yeah, settling.
Yeah, it's hard. So then, okay. So yes, I did ask the question, do you accept this? Because that's the question that I asked myself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's I always say, am I willing to accept this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because I think that when people show us who they are, what happens is, and sometimes people will actually say, yeah, I don't want this, I'm not doing this, I'm not interested in this, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, an event could happen, you could bring it to their attention, and they could even apologize for what happened, but then they'll say, but they see it like this, which is an indication that they will do that shit again.
They will do it again.
Right? So if you have that information and then you choose to embark, you are agreeing. Yeah. Even though you don't consciously say, I agree, you have agreed. You've agreed. Yeah. You're participating in whatever it is that they already showed you is going to happen. So absolutely. I asked you that question because that's the question that I asked myself. Are you willing to accept this? Is this acceptable? Yeah. And I was out. And it's funny because I think it was a meme. I don't know if it was a meme or maybe somebody said it, but they was like, God will send you like the same people over and over again to see if you're still stupid. Maybe it was a meme or something that I saw. And it's funny because I feel like in my pattern of men that I've dealt with, it very much has been a pattern. Like they've had the same like type of hobby, like the same number of kids. That is funny. Like the same. And it was just like, so you didn't learn the first time. And shout out to, again, I'm not knocking these guys, because if you listen, it's not a knock. It's just about my personal growth, and that's okay. It's a knock. I'm just it's a knock, bro. It's a knock. If you listen. But I should have learned my lesson, and I feel like this was just another example of that same guy, just in a different package. And it was just like, did you really learn the lesson that I was trying to teach you? And you know, sometimes you get tired of being tired, and I was definitely tired, and I was like, nah, like I don't accept that. I don't want to deal with this, and it's a no. And I was totally okay. Yeah. So then what changed? What changed in me? Yeah, how come 4 years ago, Chanel was willing to accept, and present day Chanel is unwilling to accept? I think a few things have changed. I'm not thirsty for that. You know, in the world that we live in on social media and stuff, everybody's putting their relationship out there, and you see like all these relationship goals and things like that. But I don't really care. Like, I don't care to be in a relationship when I'm not fully getting what I feel like I deserve. So I'm not accepting like the half-ass. I'm not accepting, oh, I don't know how to date. Like, I'm not accepting none of that stuff. So it's just like, it's a no for me. So I don't think I'm thirsty, and I don't feel like I need to teach somebody's son or like hold their hand to pursue me. Like, I don't want to. So I think I've gotten to that point. This sounds so cocky, but whatever. It's the truth. Like, that's just how I feel. And I think the other thing for me is now I feel like I have a better understanding of the man that I want. And I'm going to circle back around on this because I saw a meme today about this girl, but let me finish what I'm going to say.
I feel like I know the man that I want.
Interrupted herself.
Sorry. I know the man I want. And it's funny because who was I talking to? I was talking to, I don't even remember, somebody. But I was just telling them how I felt like, in the past, ex-boyfriends had told me like, oh, well, you living in this fairy tale, like that's not real. You watch too many movies, blah, blah, blah. But you weren't it. So it wasn't that I have this elaborate imagination of what I feel like my relationship should be. You just weren't the person to do those things for me. And that's okay. So now I really have this idea of the man that I want for my life and who I want to be with. And I feel like he's out there and I don't need to settle or bend or, anything like that for that person. So that's what changed for me, just the growth that I'm comfortable, being by myself. I don't need that. Like, if I'm gonna be born by myself, I can do that by myself. Like, I don't need a partner to not do anything that I can't do for myself by myself. And two, I just feel like I have an understanding of the person that I want to be with, that they're going to do the things that for me that I require because that's what they want to do for the relationship.
So what's the difference between settling and compromising?
Compromising, I think for one, there needs to be a conversation had. That distinguishes the two, in my opinion. If you're settling, like you're just kind of taking whatever is given, there is no conversation being had. Maybe there is, and you're just not listening to that information that's being given to you. You're trying to bypass it, or you're trying to fix it or change it or tweak it to your own understanding. I feel like a compromise says like, look, dating to me is important. This is what it looks like. And that person is like, okay, well, I'm not really used to dating, but I'm going to learn how. They go off and maybe they contact, it's a date. They learn how to date, they take you out, blah, 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 boom. That's a compromise. Like there's a conversation had, both people understand, they're comprehending, they're listening, and they have a solution, and then they move forward. Whereas settling is just like, somebody may have said something, but it's not being internalized. It's just accepting, this is what I said, this is it. Boom, I can't do nothing with that. So that's what I take it as. What are your thoughts? You like?
Like, yes, I'm listening. I think compromising is accepting less, but it's in exchange for more, right? Like a compromise is I'm giving up something and you're giving up something so that I can gain something and you can gain something, right? So overall, collectively, we both have what we want, right? But I think settling is me not having what I want and not gaining anything.
True. I totally agree with that.
So I think in both scenarios, while you are accepting less, I think compromising is you are working with me. Settling, it's like you're working against me.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Right. So compromising is more intentional.
Yeah.
Right. Like you said, there's a conversation that's involved. It's almost like a negotiation. But settling is, to your point, either I'm seeing what you're offering, it's not acceptable, and I'm putting up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. And like you said, like compromise, I think at the end of the day, or the end goal, is that we both are getting something that we want out of it. So in my example, I mean, now you get the knowledge of, now you're a better dater, and you have some quick tips in your arsenal to say, okay, I know how to plan this, I got it, I can do it myself. So at the end of the day, you both are really gaining something. But in a settlement, settling. Sorry, my mind is all over the place. Settling is just like, no, like this is the option. And that's it. Like, we can't do nothing about this.
I will say this too, though, but in a compromise, there are some things that are non-negotiable. Yeah. Right. So there are some things where it's like, no, this is the standard. This is what it is. I'm unwilling to accept less.
Absolutely.
And I think when you settle, when you accept less, it's compromising your own integrity, your own values, your own morals, right? Just to say that you have the bare minimum. But as the saying goes, you always get what you settle for.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you told me that you were a snake up front, and then later I find you lying to me and cheating on me, then how can I say this man is lying? This man is cheating. But snakes do what snakes do. Like DMX said, right? He said, always expect people to be who they are.
Absolutely.
A snake is one you bite.
All the time.
That's what they do.
That's their nature.
Know them when you see them.
Yeah.
Is what he said.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that that's really where the opportunity is. It's up front. Is to look at people at face value. Don't manipulate it into what you want it to be. Don't change their actions into the intentions that you have.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, I know they did this or they said this, but they really don't mean it because they also said this, and that contradicts the original statement. But if there's a contradiction, then that's how the relationship's going to play out. It's going to be confusing.
Yeah.
Because we're already saying one thing and doing another. So how do we expect that to play out?
Listen, I've definitely been in some situations like that where, I have to own up to my own faults in that, like saying one thing and then doing something else. Because you can get swooped up in that situation and then you're like, oh, well, how did I get here? But you accepted it. You went along with it and there we are. You're there. But I think one thing that's really interesting though is too that a lot of men will tell you up front. And I think, having conversations with your brother, like they say it like right away, like exactly what they're about to be about. And you can get that from a lot of the conversations up front too. Like the example with the guy at my job, like he told me, like, yeah, like I'm recently divorced, but I'm hurt is what he said. Like I'm still hurt. So it's just like, you're not even ready to move forward. Like you have some things that I feel like you need to work on. And again, 4 years ago, me probably would have been like, oh, that's so sweet. Like he's in tune with his emotions. Like maybe I can help him. And this Chanel was like, all right, I think you need to talk to somebody about that. And it ain't gonna be me. Like you're not talking to me, but have you tried therapy? Because it sounds like you hurt and that's what you need. So yeah, it's just very interesting, like as women, and I'll say for myself in general, because every woman don't think like I thought, but I know there are some women who've been in my situation as well that, listen, and that's all you got to do is just listen to what they tell you, listen to what men or women tell you.
Yeah, and I would say listen to get an understanding, don't listen to respond.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we are going to listen to somebody say, I'm not ready, and then our response is, oh, I'll help get you ready, then we haven't listened.
Not at all.
Right.
Because they just said, I'm not.
They just said, I'm not ready. So I think, so I remember when I was younger, like college years, I used to always say, how come dudes just can't say what they want? Like, I used to say that all the time. Like, just if you find somebody who's aligning with what you want, and then therefore, ain't no problems. Y'all are on the same page, right? If you just want to smash, find you somebody who just want to smash and move on. But then what I've realized in my 30s is that guys are saying what they want.
Okay, the whole time. Jesus. They've been saying it the whole time. We did not hear it.
We won't be listening.
We wasn't listening.
So I think, well, actually, I will say this. I do be listening.
Yeah, you do. I was. Your girl was
I be
not.
listening because I be like, and I think too, again, conversations are, I think it's like 7-8% communication, right? There's also body language. Also, when people do actions, that is a form of communication. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Just like think about babies. When they cry, they're saying something is wrong. Yeah. Right? Like these are different ways that we communicate as human beings. And I guess I said all that to say, we got to look at people's actions. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If their starting position is they tell you exactly what it is, and then we choose to accept, and then they continue to show us the thing that they said that they were, that only makes sense. Yeah, because they're doing their natural, their habitat, but their natural instinct. Yes, honey, they're in their natural habitat. But this is me. Like I told you, I was a snake. Like I'm not gonna change to be a turtle. I told you. In fact, when I shed, I'm only gonna be a bigger python. That's it. Like I'm just gonna grow and just keep on. When I shed this skin, listen. Oh, I'm really gonna bite. I'm gonna be out here being a whole new anaconda or whatever. Not an anaconda. I'm just saying. So it's funny now because we've grown and we're growing.
growing every day. And, you know, hindsight is always 2020, but it's nice to be at a point where you recognize those things. So, you know, shout out to younger women or even women who are our age who are still having to deal with that piece of it. Man, just stay the course and continue to focus and do the healing that you need to do.
And ask yourself, am I willing to accept
Absolutely.
this?
Ask the
it's
question.
so important to do that up front, because the longer that you continue, the more you are willing to accept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the longer cycle, like you're gonna keep being in that same cycle.
Yep.
And that's where I was like, it's tired. Like, I don't want to be on this cycle no more. Let me off the little wheel, the little hamster wheel. I'm done. Like, I just cannot keep going through the same stuff with essentially the same person over and over and over again. Like, I was just so tired of that. So I was out. But going back to when I interrupted myself, but it's funny because I was when we were talking about how men will they'll tell you like up front, like, this is what I'm saying, like, this is who I am, they'll tell you. But the other piece to that, a lot of men, again, there's a caveat, it's not all men. Some men,
I'm just
because I don't want to get no hate mail, like, I'm not like that.
Send it to me.
Hey.
Address the hate mail to
There
me.
we go. But I'm just like,
I ain't gonna read it.
It's gonna be in the trash, okay? But no, some men don't know what they want, which brings me to the meme that I just saw when I was driving here. So a young lady that I followed had posted this meme in her story, and it was saying how this guy was like dealing with all these toxic relationships with his girlfriends for like the last 5 years. Like, he was cheating on her. That he kept getting put out. Like, the story was, I was like, oh, okay, like, he was really being crazy. So I'm like, maybe he found like the woman that he wanted to be with. He found a man that he wanted to be with.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, you saw that? So I was just like, so he spent all that time like being traumatic and doing the most to these women when you didn't really know that what you really wanted was a man the entire time.
Yeah, I actually had a friend who's a woman who did the same thing.
No, what?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. But in any case, I agree. I think that sometimes men don't know what they want. I think sometimes we don't know what we want.
Absolutely not.
But I also think that that's clear if you listen to what the guys are saying. I will say this too. I think sometimes guys will give the bare minimum to keep you interested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that's when we have to, again, go back to, am I willing to accept the bare minimum?
That is very true.
Is the minimum good enough?
Yeah.
Is that okay? And in most cases, it's really not. So
no, it is not. Yeah, definitely. I've been hit with the bare minimum, like, oh, ha, like, tell me a joke, or ha, this is funny, or try to relate to something that makes me laugh. But it's just like, oh, ha, see your way out, my dear. Like, not playing this game with you anymore. Like, I'm done. So I definitely agree with that. The bare minimum, and that's how, you know, they see if the door is still like cracked open. Like,
and a lot of guys just want to have, and shout out to Lena for teaching me this, right? There's a lot of guys just want to have access to you.
Oh yeah. Woo! That access is something, boy. They just want to see if they can still.
Is the door still open?
Kick the door with their foot,
is
like
it,
hold it up,
and then they just peek in, put one little eyeball in there, and then.
Oh man, hilarious! So crazy. It's so crazy because it's funny because it happens to women all the time. Like, not just me, but like other women see this too, and it's just like. But then the question is like,
is that acceptable?
Gonna accept that, right? Like, is this acceptable for you? And for me, I just be like, no. It's not. Like, and I'm not even done like growing and healing yet, but I'm definitely like, I'm at a good spot right now, but it's only gonna get better because I'm really like, no.
Yeah,
it's a no.
Same. I'm still on my healing journey.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what this podcast is all about. But I think that over time I've gotten better, right? Still not perfect, but certainly better with gauging people's true intentions and not expecting me from people.
Yeah.
You know, and expecting like, oh, if they did that, then I'm like rationalizing the bad behavior. Like, oh no, people would never do that unless this happened. No. They did what they did. They said what they said. They meant what they said. They meant what they did.
Yeah, because they did it. The action was the communication.
Exactly. The action was the clear communication.
This is what you did.
This is what you did. So yeah, and realizing that you continuing to entertain it is your willingness to accept. Right? So
yeah, I would agree with
only you can prevent forest fires.
Says Smokey the Bear, but never been a truest statement ever made in history.
And what showed me that I was settling with my very first relationship, which was, partially just because I was young, right?
Yeah.
But was when I was trying to break up with him and he could not believe that I was leaving. I was like, so you really think that you could do all these things and I'm going to be here? But then I was like, well, I've been here.
Yeah.
So that is why he just cannot believe.
He was shocked. Right. That you would leave.
That I would actually leave.
Said what?
Because it's new for him.
Oh right? Yeah.
He's like,
but hold
on.
He said, what is this?
What the heck is this? Now I'm the one that's tripping.
Right. Like what? Oh, so you do got sense. So you are
exactly.
Like what, sir? Jesus, they be so shocked, child. But I mean, and it takes a couple hurts and to go through things like that for us to realize like this is not it. This is not where it's at.
This is not it. And then I was just like, I think I can be better than this.
Absolutely. Listen, like if this was it, like I know I could move on up.
I'm pretty sure that I could do better than this right here. This is not okay.
No. And I've been there too, where I'm just like, and even like young relationships too that I had, like just some of the stuff that guys would say to me. And I was just like, you allowed them to tell you that, and now your self-esteem ruined like 10 years later. So it's funny that, that happens to guys, like a girl like, I don't like you because X, Y, and Z, and then they'll hold on to it for like their whole life. But like women will just forget about it. We'll just like bury it somewhere and it'll show up in a different way. But it's just like, yeah, those are all the things that I'm like starting to unpack now that I'm almost 35 to be like, yeah, he really said that to me. Like all this time, like I've been holding on to that and feeling so conscious about myself for this, from what somebody else said. Like, oh, well, you're cute for a dark-skinned girl, or oh, wow, like your gums aren't black. Like this is really stuff people say to me. Yes, because I'm dark-skinned. Like, oh, your gums are pink. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, who says that to somebody? Like, what? Or like, oh, I wish you were thicker. Like all kind of stuff that will, if I was a teenage girl and right now in today's world, like who knows what I would have done to my body to feel like accepted and perfect. Thank God this happened when social media was not a thing. Like you only saw like video girls, and in our head, like this not real. Like, and it's not real today. Like, but then I feel like we knew like that's not real. But yeah, it's just a lot of immature, dumb things that boys would say to me that kind of stuck with me today. Or like the jab where I said, oh, you watch too many movies, that's not real life. Like relationships, you can't have that. It's just like, no, you don't want to do it, and that's okay. Like you're not it. Like you're not the one for me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that I've ever had a guy say something to me that made me feel like, I don't know, like I'm not good enough, or like, I don't know, or like I'm pretty. I think it was more their actions. Like, oh, gee.
Oh, so you just with a whole nother person.
A whole nother girl.
Well, we together. All right. Exactly. I see what you're doing.
Right.
Crazy. But that's bold too, to be like, I know I got her, like she's a great girl, and I'm
hey, look.
Crazy to me.
But I will say this. I have witnessed or heard, stories from friends where guys are saying things, and I'm like, see, those are the microaggressions right there, where now they're about to play off your self-esteem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're accepting them talking about how pretty other girls are, or comparing you to other girls, or just doing these things that are just really, and this is the thing too, that I've really been focusing on lately when I'm meeting you guys is, are they nice or are they kind? Because those are two different things.
Yeah, I agree.
And people who are nice, that can be very superficial, they're polite, right? If someone were to meet them, they would say that they had a pleasant experience. They don't have anything negative to say about them, right? Oh, they said please, they said thank you, they pulled out my chair, they do nice gestures, but they're very superficial and it's rooted in nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And it's those, I don't know, I'm not going to go off into a tangent about that, but are they kind?
Yeah.
Right. Like really, truly being kind, as in empathetic, as in thoughtful, as in sincere, as in considering me.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's how I'm weeding out people now. Is, because you can be nice and unkind.
For sure.
Right? Those are people that'll be like, oh, hey,
and then turn around,
talk about like a dog behind your back.
Listen, absolutely.
Because to your face, I want the persona that I'm nice.
I'm nice.
Right? I'm pleasant. I'm nice.
But we'll talk
but
crazy.
Unkind, hurtful, stab you in the back. You know, so yeah, I think that's sort of what I've been focusing on in terms of what I'm willing to accept. I don't accept the nice, I accept the kind. And I realized too, because I say this about myself, like, oh, you really got to know me to like me, right? Because I'm not really like nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can be.
Yeah.
But I'm not the person who you want to be part of the welcoming committee.
Yeah.
Because I don't really smile a lot, blah, blah, blah. If I see you and I know you, I'll hug you, kiss you, love you, all that. But I don't really do that with strangers because it's not real to me, right? It's not rooted in anything. So I can be nice, but usually it's not sincere. Yeah. So when I go on these meetings with all these suppliers that I'm going to have with all these white men, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to say, hey, yes, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to do all that. But then when they're like, oh, and let's go to them, I'm like, oh, because I've been putting on this act too long.
Listen,
okay.
Now I gotta take my mask off.
I can't. Look. I gotta. I'm on a daggone road show.
That is.
Okay.
So
I don't have
funny.
it to give. But what I am is kind.
Yeah, for sure.
Sincere.
Yes.
Say what I mean. I mean what I say. My actions follow my words. I am who I am. Accept it or don't.
Hey.
And if you choose not to, I'm fine with that.
That's okay, as we all know. It is okay. But no, that is definitely a fair assessment of people.
So when I choose to be nice, like for example, when we were in Vegas, there was another girl with a orange swimwear on, and I was like, "Hey girl, you cute, blah blah," but I meant it. Yeah,
absolutely. She could have definitely rolled with us.
I said, you can come hang with us, blah blah blah, but I meant that. I was being sincere.
Yeah.
Did I say that to everyone who walked by? Heck no.
Yeah, no.
But if I go out of my way to say something, I mean that shit.
Got to.
But yes.
I love that. No, I think that's a good way to weed people out, because it is a difference, especially in this like online scenario too. Like when you're not really interacting with people face to face, you do have to kind of gauge that as well. And
you do.
In the world today, I mean, it's definitely tricky.
Yeah, somebody, I don't know if that was Scarlett that sent us something, and it was like, oh, like Jeffrey Dahmer would love online dating right now.
Oh, woo!
And I'm like, oh, absolutely. But what we have to understand about him is that he was very nice.
He was.
Yeah, he was very, very nice. And this is, again, why we have to differentiate between people who are being nice and people who are being kind.
Yeah, and it's funny because, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like I'm nice too. Like I feel like people will be like, oh, she's nice. Like I'm pleasant. Like I have manners. And I think that's a part of the way I was brought up. Like growing up, I was just like that because my sibling was a little toxic. So I feel like I had to be, because I was trying to be in a buffer between my mom and my sibling. But that's another story for another day.
Story for another time.
But I also know about me that I'm kind too. Like if I love you, I love you. Like I'm gonna make mistakes, but if I love you, I love you. I'm gonna be there. But I will say, my radar goes up too when somebody is being like overly nice.
Yes.
And this happened, and then you brought up Jeffrey Dahmer, but it made me think about this man. We went to a center, like a festival here in Milwaukee, and my son was with me. And this man was being like super nice to my son, like trying to play catch with him. And I'm like, who's this man? Like, who is this? Because who sent you? Because now my radar is up, and I'm like, I don't know him, and he just being too nice. And then he was like, oh, well, can your son come play catch with me over here at this field? And I'm like, no, sir, like, I don't know you. And he was like, oh, well, here's my card. I'm like, okay, but I still don't know you. So my answer is no, like, he will not be going anywhere with you. So yeah, like people like
you pedophile, get away from my kid.
Girl, I was really like, this is about to be Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, he trying to get my boy, trying to play catch with him. My son don't even play baseball, sir. Like, what are you doing? So that whole thing was scary. So when people are overly nice, like I do be like, I don't know, like something ain't right here.
Or like offering too much too soon.
Yeah, like
red flag.
Red flags. That is, yes, Jeffrey Dahmer will be living his
best life. He said, I even gotta go out here and get. I mean, look, I'll fly him out to me.
Oh my God, he will be living. I mean, with the apps, the Tinder apps, like Jeffrey Dahmer,
he would just swipe right on everybody. Whoever bites.
Oh my God, he will be winning out here. A lot of these serial killers, like, just,
but they're all there. They always say they were so charming.
They do,
and like it's always the same story.
Like the Ted Bundy dude, like women really like loved him. Yeah, like that's crazy.
And actually, Ted Bundy is actually who I was thinking about in my head.
Not
Ted
Jeffrey
Bundy,
Dahmer.
not Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know if Jeffrey Dahmer was nice.
I feel like he was. Well, I think he, because I watched My Friend Jeffrey Dahmer.
The documentary. Oh man! But I was actually thinking about Ted Bundy.
But Ted Bundy, man,
Ted Bundy was very nice.
Even after he did all the shit that he did, the women was still like, "Not Ted, I love him."
They was writing him.
Listen, Ted was the man. You hear me? Okay. I don't know how we got there, but hilarious. It's so true. So they were nice and charming, and
I be watching Criminal Minds, and they're always nice and charming.
This is what we do to relax.
Do you see those memes where it's like, how women freak out when men watch like violent films, like people getting shot up and stuff like that, and we're like, oh no, we're under the covers.
Yes.
But then they said that like when we're watching a documentary about like a serial killer, we're just calmly eating popcorn and a dude is like stabbing someone 57 times.
And we be like, oh dang,
wow, interesting.
Who done it?
Right. Exactly.
Who's next? Like we're trying to piece it together.
That is funny.
It's funny, but no, it's funny because I hate like action movies where they do like unnecessary shooting, but I do like horror movies. I like scary movies.
Exactly. So, and serial killers.
Yeah, and serial killers. The list.
Shouts out to Baby Siri and my girl who is always covering murder mysteries.
Yes. Yeah, Sherry Renee saw this lady in the airport with her shirt on, and she like pushed me down.
You was a casualty, okay? You were just in the way. Move. You saw that shirt. Get out the way. This is not a drill, okay? It's not a drill.
I was so confused. I was like, what the hell?
I was just, first of all, we was on a long ass flight, and I was listening to Murders.
Oh my God.
Mystery Mondays with Baby Syrian. Okay?
That was so funny.
That's what I was listening to, and the girl just happened to have on her shirt.
She did.
Yes. So I was like, oh my God, that's Bailey Syrian. Her husband was like, whoever that he is. And I said, first of all, sir, it's a woman.
Right.
Let's start there.
The husband was confused too.
Yeah,
and so was I. And I was like, what is happening? Then you like screamed and pushed me. So I was like, what's happening? And I fell all the way down to the ground.
No, you didn't. No, you did not. No, you did not. Now we just lying.
I'm just kidding. I didn't fall on the ground, but I was like shook, like
every time when we was in Vegas and we would meet new people and they would say, "Where are y'all from?" Chanel would say, "Bucks and Six."
Yes,
that's not an answer.
Hey, you know where I'm from.
Where are you ladies from? Bucks and Six.
Not even the city or state, like
And they would be like, their face would be like, "What does this mean? Like, does she speak English? What is this?"
Listen, people gonna stop playing Milwaukee. Like we didn't just win a championship. Put some respect on our name, like Bucks and Six. We won this. Like, oh my God.
So then I would have to push it to the side, like Milwaukee.
Right? You'll be like,
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay,
like, y'all
forgive my friend.
People friend. They know. They know Giannis. Get those bigger bucks. We out here.
But in any case, the point is,
oh my God, that was funny to laugh.
Settling.
Yes. Woo, Jesus.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't. Man, I mean, if we don't know anything else, we do know for certain that life is short, man. Don't settle for nothing. Now, we talked about relationships, but again, this is, you could apply it to your career. You could apply it to your hair. You get
your hair.
I mean, don't settle for those split ends. Get your hair
Look,
together. I'm just
hey.
saying. Don't
But
settle.
okay, if we're gonna go with the hair example, a lot of people would rather have length
Than healthy hair.
than healthy hair.
I've never been like that my entire life. I'd be like, cut it. Like, if my hair is damaged, cut this off. Like, we gonna start over. We're done here. Like, no. I done been bald head enough where I'm just like, it'll grow back. It's just hair. But to have like a struggle, my hair nappy right now, but it is healthy. So if it was not, it was healthy and nappy. But if it was not, I'd be like, cut it off. Like, I'm out. Because one thing I can't do is the split ends.
Giving up, or I'm sorry, accepting something in the short term, which would be length.
Yeah.
Versus healthy hair, which is a more longer term aspiration.
Absolutely. So, yes. No settling nowhere. Like, don't do it. Like, life is short, and think about what you want and be responsible for that.
But see, I think that's the problem, is that a lot of people don't take the time to think about, what does good look like?
Yeah.
What is my standard?
Yeah.
What do I want? What am I willing to accept? What is the minimum?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so then when they get presented with something without thought, they're just like, oh, well, that doesn't sound bad. Yeah, maybe that don't sound bad, but is that what you want? Is that what you need? Is it really acceptable? Things may not be acceptable, but they're still not bad.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, those things don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. So
that is true.
Yeah. So I think for me, as I learn more about myself and as I learn more about what I want, then that gives me the power to say no, right, to things that are not acceptable.
Yeah, I agree. Just growing and aging and learning more and having more experiences has really been teaching me, okay, things that I'm willing to accept, and things I'm like, no, non-negotiable. Like, I can't even do it with you. Like, I'm not going there. And it took all of that, and it's still like not like, okay, you've learned it all. Like, this is the end. It's still like every day something can change. Like, you know.
And sometimes it just becomes a new standard. Maybe yesterday it was acceptable, but guess what? Today it's not.
Today it's not.
It's no longer acceptable. I'm not putting up with it no more.
Absolutely.
That's it. Well, what change? Look, it don't matter.
It don't.
You didn't tell me I don't have to.
Listen, I'm multifaceted, right?
Okay, it ain't acceptable. That's it. It's a wrap.
I'm a living and breathing organ. It just changes every day.
Every day.
So, man, but
but that's what it really comes down to, right? Is your standards and being in alignment with your own standards. But I think that it is difficult when you haven't thought it through and then you get presented with something. So then what's the process? How do we, what tool, technique, mechanism, infrastructure do we have to ensure that we're not settling?
So for me, it's revisiting the past. Now, while I don't journal per se, I do have a pretty good memory as far as like things that concerns me and like the things that I've been through. Like, I'm really intentional about like the hurt, like the pain, like the emotions that I felt. Like, I'm really in tune with that. Like, how did this make me feel? Like, how did I feel in this moment? So for me, it's definitely like going back to think about like that hurt, or just really sitting and thinking about the whole experience all together. And in that moment, like, you might have forgot something that was said to you or something that had happened to you, but the memories are there. Like, you were there in that moment. So it's still that file in your head. So for me, it's pulling those files out. Like, I didn't like how this felt. I did not like what you said to me. Like, that hurt my feelings. Like, I cannot put myself back in a position like that. So to really be done with those feelings, like, I want to not ever feel a certain type of way ever again. So that's kind of how I go about it, of not going back to whatever cycle or thing that I was settling for, is going back to the feeling. Like, how did this whole ordeal make me feel? And I know you shouldn't rely heavily on feelings, because feelings can change, but when you've been hurt or heartbreak or sadness, like, those things stick with you and you don't want to go back to that place.
Yeah, and I think the feelings are burned in your memory, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is what, that is how we remember events, right? Like, I'm always going to remember, like, we've been to Vegas several times, right? Okay. But So if y'all were like, oh yeah, that time we were in Vegas, I'd be like, which time?
Yeah.
Little Wayne time? Or like,
because it was different.
I remember losing my damn mind.
Yeah.
So I need y'all to let me know, you know, which time
it was different
are we talking about here, right? Because my Nesby time was different from Lil Wayne time, which is different than my mom's birthday time, which was different than Samantha's birthday time.
Absolutely,
right? Like they're all different. So there was a different feeling, there was a different vibe, there was a different experience. All of them were Vegas.
All of them,
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the feeling is what makes it stick. So I don't know. For me, what it is I do journal. And I do that because I want to remember the things that are not feelings. Yeah. Right. Because my body will remember the feeling, but my journal will remember the event. And it helps me put the feeling into context so that I don't exacerbate the feeling. So when I journal, I try to write it objectively, as in first, these are the events that took place, right? Like this is just what happened. Then I go off into my feelings.
There we go. Right. Because they work. They go hand in hand.
Because I need to know what really happened and then how did I feel about it.
That's full circle picture.
Full
here.
Circle. Yeah. Right. Now it's still biased because I'm the writer.
Right.
Okay? That it is.
It's my thoughts and feelings.
But hey. But it's my journal. So hey, it is what it is. However, I will write in there perspective that other people have given me. Like I'll be like, oh, and Scarlett said da, 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 da. Then I'll be like, but F her, she don't know what she's talking about. Right.
Yeah.
But I do that. Yeah, exactly. And my thought on it might be, yeah, whatever. But later I might be like, oh, okay, I see where she was going with this. But at least it's documented. Yeah. Right. But I do that so that when I'm facing the same situation, I can truly identify the pattern. Right. And the pattern is really for me. Yeah. Right. What do I need to change? Yeah. So is it, do I, and then it goes into like, do I have a habit of, dealing with certain types of people that behave in a certain type of way? Am I enabling this pattern? What's my part in the pattern? What do I need to change? But I think what helps serve me well is asking myself, is it acceptable? And listening to my body, right? Just like I remember a couple weeks ago, some guy wrote on a post that I had, and y'all must have got a notification because y'all is nosy. And he was like, "You are amazing." And I was like, "Thank you." Oh. And then you and Scarlett was in the chat like, "Oh, and Sherry just gave him this dry response, da 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 da." And I was like, I don't want this man.
Yeah, because when you told us the facts, I was like, "Oh yeah."
I don't need to look. My response is my response.
It was enough. Yeah,
it belongs to me. Hey, I don't really care, because that's the other thing too, is people will try to put their standards on you. People will tell you your expectations are too high. People will tell you that your whatever it is that you desire, that you asking for too much. Yep. And people will try to get you to settle for what they have settled for. And people will try to get you to accept what they have accepted. And that's not okay. People don't have to understand. They don't have to agree, but they must respect. And I think that what it comes down to is a lot of times it's almost like if you see somebody else has accepted something, sometimes you think, okay, well, we in this together, but it's like, you got to live your own life. Absolutely. You got to live your own life. And if someone else is willing to accept something, even though it's not acceptable to them, their life, they get to choose it. But then you also get to choose what you're willing to accept. Yeah. And from that point on, I was like, let me mind my business. Like, because if this would it be like, thanks, and that's it. Like, it's done. It's a wrap. Lucky it was that. Exactly. It's a wrap. I should have just liked it. It moved on. Yeah, or you should have done nothing. Like, there is no response here. Like, I don't need to respond to you. And that's what I'm learning too. Like, I don't have to respond to anybody. You don't have, exactly. You don't have to. You don't owe nobody no explanation, no response, no nothing. You get to do you and live your damn life. Exactly. No matter what you choose. Absolutely. So yes. But no, that's. And I think too, when people try to get you, like especially the guys who tell them you asking for too much. Yeah. You're not going to get this. Yeah. I don't understand it. Just say it's not you. Like, just say that you can't do it. Right. Like, no need to be I heard what it is that you're looking for. I'm not the one. That's cool.
And it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but people used to do that to the singer Chili. Like they was like, oh,
TLC Chili?
Yeah, TLC Chili. When she must have like a reality show or something, like trying to get her on a date, but the lady kept telling her like, well, you're asking for too much. Like your list is too high.
Women,
like,
but that's what I'm saying too. Is even women will tell you asking for too much.
Yes, it was like a dating coach lady that told her this. Like, no, like you ask for too much. Like this is impossible. Like you'll never find a person. And I don't know if she's with somebody today. I don't know, but I feel like she's very content with being by herself because you're not giving me what I can give myself. Like it's a thing. So I just thought that was interesting. And she's not the only example that happens so much where men and women will tell somebody else that they're asking for too much. But maybe you're not asking for enough. Maybe you not getting what you want. So you want to.
Misery loves company.
Yeah, want me to be a part of what you got going on. Like,
yeah, I think that when people have settled and they can be content and they're settling, but they will invite you into that party.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, no, don't invite me to this.
No thanks.
This settling party. I'm out. No thanks. Y'all be good here, but I'm out. Okay. So yeah, I've definitely seen that happen so much, and from shows or like different people talking like, no, you just asking for too much. But it's like, who are you to tell me that? So,
and you know, my thought on it is, don't let somebody who has the power, who doesn't have the power to tell you yes, to tell you no.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
How are you gonna tell me when I'm asking for too much? Well, you're not even the one who's being say yes to this.
And I'm not asking you per se. Like my prayers don't come to you. So yeah. Crazy. But no, this was good.
So mind your business.
Right. Please.
Drink your water.
Please do all of those things so you can get what you want, what you asking for, and I'm gonna get what I'm asking for. Listen.
And I think too, I think that it's also about willing to forego and say none of the above.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're offering me A and B and neither of them is what I want, it's say no thanks.
Yeah. I think
no to none, I don't want either of these. Yeah. None of these are acceptable.
And as we've been learning, no is a complete sentence. And I think for many women, it takes a lot for women to just be like, no. And it's funny because even for like my son, like boys will try to get you to get to the like why. Like, and I was having a conversation with another mom, a boy mom, about this, and she was like, yeah, like I had to be firm in my no with my son, because then they take that and be like, well, they'll keep asking or can I? And it's just like, but when you think if they're doing it to me, they're gonna do it to somebody's daughter, and she's saying no, and they still like, oh, but can I? Or can I do it? And it's just like, no, like no is no, and you have to understand that. So that's definitely been the lesson that I've been trying to teach my son. So if I'm like, I said you can't go to this party. Why? My answer is no. Like, we're done. No is a complete sentence. It's a complete answer. No means no. So don't keep going back and forth with me. Because later on, that's going to play out in a situation where I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation with you about that now. So just being content with the no's, and that's okay. Even when it's your cute son.
Well, then I'm flip that around to us then.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a no, even though a lot of times people don't exactly say no, but it's a no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Respecting the no.
You got to.
Respect the no.
Like,
just like we want people to respect our no.
Yeah.
We got to respect their no's.
Yeah. With no explanation too. Like, no was the complete answer. Like, I don't need to give you any background, no explanation or anything like that. Like, it's just no.
And that's kind of how I've been trying to put certain situations into context. I said this and this person said this. So really what they were saying is no.
Mm-hmm. Basically.
Basically they were saying no.
It's a no.
So with that being said, there's nothing else for me to do here. Nothing else for me to say.
Yeah, it's the end.
Because I'm definitely gonna respect you now.
You got to. If we, like you said, like if we want people to respect our no, like we have to respect other people's no. Exactly. And be okay with that. Yeah. Like, yeah. So that's definitely a lesson I'm learning too. as we go. But definitely trying to teach my son that no really does mean no, bro. So yeah.
Except for when it doesn't.
No, except for when it does. Because girl, I'm like so serious. Now that he's liking girls, it's like, no, I said no, and I'm your mama, so I need you to take this no.
So
and
I got an
understand that it
example.
means no.
I've been watching Family Matters. Shouts out to 90s
Hilarious.
sitcoms. And so this whole concept of settling.
Mhm.
So when you're binge watching something, you get to see everything kind of play out instantly.
Yeah.
And it made me think of Steve Urkel, right? How he was so in love with Laura Winslow. And eventually she did start to befriend him, but she still always told him, I don't want to be with you. I'm never gonna want to be with you, blah, blah, blah. I didn't finish it yet. I think I'm on like season 6 or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe around season 4 or 5, she introduced him to her date's cousin, Myra.
Okay.
And he thinks Myra is pretty. He thinks Myra is smart. He thinks she is important.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, I don't love you.
Yeah.
I love Laura. I want to be with Laura. And she's like, no, you don't. You don't love Laura. Now, mind you, he just said,
I love Laura.
I love Laura, and I don't want to be with you. Okay, that's what he said.
Oh,
so then she says, no, you don't. You're confused. You spend time with me, date me, blah, blah, blah. So he agrees to date her, but they're not exclusive. They're not official, blah, blah, blah. A whole year goes on. She's literally chasing after him this whole time. Literally,
yeah.
Figuratively and literally. And then periodically they keep having the same conversation.
Yeah.
Where she's like, okay, I'm ready to make things official yet. Like, we need to go study. You need to give me your science club pin. Like, we need to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Because, they're in high school.
Yeah.
And he always says, oh, I think we're too young for this. Like, he always has some way of finessing around the conversation. But it really comes back to what he said the very first time that they met, which was, I don't love you.
Yeah.
I love Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so eventually, so this cycle continues and continues, and Myra keeps getting hurt, and she runs off crying this one time at the in the middle of the mall, because he keeps trying to he's letting her down easily. And it just reminded me of settling. How this man said, but because he's spending time with her, because he is taking her on dates, because she keeps holding on to the things that he is doing, right? Because she looks at it as a contradiction to what he said. But Steve is just a nice guy.
Yeah,
he's being nice, but it's really unkind.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, when the conversation would come up again, because now she's like, okay, I do want to be your girlfriend, and he's kind of beating around what he said initially. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a perfect example.
That's what I thought was
on Myra's part. Example. Yes, that is a perfect example, because Steve was very adamant, I'm in love with Laura, I don't want to be with you like that, no.
And he never straightened that. Now, did he date her? Did he buy her flowers? Did he do nice gestures?
That's so funny.
But I feel like that is, and maybe it just stuck with me because I binge watched it, but it's just that is the perfect example of someone saying exactly what it is. And women just not listening, us just not listening.
Yeah, and just trying to fix or trying to make it what we want it to be.
Yeah, but she literally said oh, I'm going to, she even said and it was playing on her self-esteem. Am I not pretty enough? Am I not smart enough? Am I not this? Am I not that? So then she decided to hate Laura.
Yeah, that is so funny. And then Laura and Stefan Urkel. A mess. But that is funny. I might have to rewatch that, because I'm I wonder what I don't know what happened in the latter seasons.
I don't know what happens at the end. Yeah. I don't know, how it is playing out.
Who does he end up being with?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to finish watching, because I don't remember. This was in the night.
That's so funny. Yeah, I don't know either. Who did he choose? But yeah, shout out to Family Matters. Shout out to Myra. She passed away, so rest her soul. Yeah, she had cancer.
Oh wow.
But yeah, shout out to them. That's what's up. But that is a perfect example. So if y'all too young, go catch up on Family Matters on Hulu. But if you a 90s kid like us, then you kind of remember vaguely. But you might want to go on Hulu and watch it.
Yes. Slow start until Steve, because I don't think he comes on to like episode 12.
On the real, yeah, that first season, I was like, what is this? Because I was mad, like, because he was only supposed to be a recurring character, but he was so good that they brought him on full time.
Yes, lots of tension on set.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Because I could see he's from the action.
Heroes. I still love him though too.
Julio White. Shout out to
him.
So yes, I don't know, but that's just so yeah. It'd be interesting to see how things play out with Myra and Steve and Laura. But I was just like, this man said and has continued to say,
I'm in love with
somebody else. Shout out to my brother because he be telling me all kind of examples, and he be like, "Man, I done told this girl,
oh Lord,
what it is."
It is still.
And she keep pointing out the stuff that I do, but I just tell her I'm just a nice guy.
Listen.
I would treat any woman like this. You are not special.
You're not exempt from this.
So I'm like, look.
Ooh, yeah. So then I feel like at some point the woman has to be like, you know what? No.
Steve Harvey said, never let a man have to tell you that he don't want you more than
once. Listen, one time is enough. Like you told me.
And I think that most men aren't going to explicitly say that, but they will show you.
They will show you.
Absolutely. And again, that is a form of communication. So.
And it's a no. Like, no thanks. But yeah, that was good. Perfect example of settling.
Oh, Steve Urkel.
Steve Stefan Urkel. That is so funny how he like changed himself, but he still looks exactly the same. I'm like,
he actually didn't. He did because
exactly
he changes his body posture. He changes the way that he is like holding his mouth. Obviously he changes his voice, but he's distinctly different. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I was still like, no. I was like, this. I mean, it's made for great TV. But I was, as an adult, I was like, this dude. But I think as a kid, I was like, oh my god, like he's a new person.
No, even as an adult, I was like, wow, he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
And then there was an episode where Laura became Steve because she was like, I wish you knew what it was like to be me. And then her guardian angel comes and lets Steve be her, and then he says, but in exchange you have to be him. And so she did the same thing, like her body posture, the way she would hold her mouth. It was like this like innocence about them that just came about. It's almost like, did you ever see that movie with Will Smith where he had to play his younger self? What's it called?
That's a newer movie. I can't think of what it's called. It's called like not Alpha Man. It's called something. I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like
I haven't seen that.
I saw an interview where he was talking about, because I'm like, how did you do that? And he was like, yeah, I just thought about. he was like, there's an innocence and youthfulness that you have, and so I just wondered, well, how
it's called Gemini Man.
Gemini Man. That's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
But he was like, I just thought back to how I was before I had sex. And so I just became that person. And the interviewer was like, yeah. So
hilarious.
So like,
that's one way to think about it.
Because he had to play both parts. And he literally looked younger.
Yeah.
And if you were a big fan of Will, as am I, then you have watched him in the night. He literally took on his 90s self.
Yeah. I thought they did some like GCI work though.
No, I thought that they did too. I was like, they had to. Like, he did so well. Now I did fall asleep in this movie. I will say that. But on a date. Shame on me. I know it was bad. I was knocked out. It was raining. It was bad.
You ain't wrong.
But in any case, that's like the way that he portrayed himself. He did such a phenomenal job. But I found this, so I wanted to read this. It says, and I don't know if I captured all of it because I tried to take a screenshot. But in any case, it talks about a mouse, which I hate, but it's an image of a mouse on a jar of food. Yeah. And it talks about how the mouse found himself on this jar of food, and he was so excited, like, oh my God, now I have food for life, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, he keeps eating the food, he finds himself at the bottom of the jar. And it says he realized that he was trapped and he couldn't get out. He now has to fully depend on someone to put grains in the jar for him to survive. He now has no choice but to eat what he is given. He is a slave to his situation. So actually, I do have the beginning of it. Okay, I knew I was better than this. So scratch that. Let's start from the top. It says a mouse was placed at the top of a jar filled with grains. It was so happy to find so much food around him that he no longer felt that he needed to run around and search for food again. Now he could happily live his life. After a few days of enjoying the grains, he reached the bottom of the jar. Suddenly, he realized that he was trapped and he couldn't get out. He now has to fully depend on someone to put grains in the jar for him to survive. He now has no choice but to eat what he is given, a slave to his situation. A few lessons from this. 1, short-term pleasure can lead to long-term traps. 2, if things come easy and you get comfortable, you are getting trapped into dependency. Number 3, they say use it or lose it, but when you're not using your skill, you will lose more than your skills. You will lose your choice and your freedom. 4, freedom does not come easy, but can be lost quickly. Nothing comes easy in life, and if it comes easily, maybe it's not worth it. Don't curse your struggles, embrace them. They are your blessings in disguise. So to me, this just reminded me of the whole concept of settling, right? Saw something, took it because this mouse was able to enjoy something in the short term, but now is enslaved to the situation. And I think that that's the most important thing about settling, is that there are consequences and repercussions. So that's why I asked, are you willing to accept?
Yeah.
Meaning, are you willing to accept everything that comes along with this? Because that's what I asked myself. What am I giving up?
Yeah.
And is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Listen, and do I feel stuck? Like, am I being the whole person that I need to be?
What am I giving up, and is it worth it?
Yeah.
So now this mouse ain't got no damn food, and he's stuck in the
And
jar.
it's stuck, right? Now he's stuck, and you have to wait on somebody else to give you your needs, and that doesn't sound like a great place to be.
Yes.
So yeah. Well, no, that was good. It's good.
So now that we beat this thing with the dead horse,
exactly.
Is that the saying? Beat this thing with the
Yes.
dead horse? Okay.
Wait.
It didn't
beat
sound
a dead
right.
horse with a stick or something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I was like,
about
wait
this
a minute.
isn't right.
I'm like, that
You
ain't
can't
it.
beat something with a dead horse. That doesn't make sense.
Like, why would you beat something? I was so like, now I think that's right. The dead horse part was really good. But it's beat a dead horse with a stick.
With a stick.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we beat this dead horse with a stick.
Yes.
What goes in our to-go box?
I'm definitely taking away just continuing to grow and be in tune with the things that I want in my career, in my relationships, in my life, and in every aspect of my life. Really being in tune with the things that I want, the things that are non-negotiables, my standards, just really being in tune with those things so that I don't fall into traps of settlement, and being content with just the bare minimum.
Mine are just owning my standards, right? And not letting anybody influence them, and just realizing that they are what they are. And I'm allowed to change them. I'm allowed to have them grow. And just continue to ask myself, am I willing to accept it? And what are the consequences, right? What comes along with it? Consequences can be bad or good, right? And then also remembering that I can say no.
Indeed.
And that's all I got to say about it. No thanks. And then move on.
Facts. Indeed.
Thanks for tuning into Brunch with Besties podcast. Until next time.
Peace.